Yay! Time for a maths lesson. Woo! Hello, I've got a lesson for you today on two-way tables. This features at both GCSE Foundation and higher levels. Before I go on with the lesson though, you might want to click on the link below the video and download the exam questions for this topic. The first question in that pack is one I'm going to be going through a little later in this video. So if you want to be able to have a go through one of the questions and work out the method while you're watching, then get that ready either up on your screen or print it out or copy it out so that we can go through that together. Two-way tables then are a way of showing information and also working out bits of missing information, things that we don't have. We can work out based on the other bits of information that we've got. They're also a way of us comparing and finding data, things that correspond with each other. That's a little hard to explain, so it's best if we go through an example together. So I'll do that now. Now, if we just imagine the scenario where I worked in an office with 30 people and I wanted to find out what they all did for lunch, whether they brought lunch with them, whether they bought lunch at the canteen, or whether they went out for lunch. And let's assume those are the only three options. So there were 30 people in my office and I asked them all what they did, and these were the results that we got. 16 brought their lunch in with them, packed lunch. 9 of them bought lunch at the canteen, and 5 of them went out for lunch and got themselves something off-site. Now, one thing I can do here is just check that these numbers make sense by adding them up. So 16 add 9 is 25, add 5 again is 30, which is how many people we said I had in my office. So that's one check that we can do. Another thing that we can do is if this piece of information or any one of these was missing, we could work that out. So let's say I lost the data for how many people bought lunch at work, okay? I could still work out what number that goes there because I know all three of these have to add up to 30 because there's 30 people in the office. So I can add these two numbers together, 16 and 5 make 21, and find out what the gap is between 21 and 30, either just by adding or by taking away and finding the difference. So to find the difference, I subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. So 16 and 5 is 21. Take away 21 from 30. 30 take away 21 is 9. So that gets us our 9 back. So that's one method that we use in two-way tables. Now this isn't a two-way table. It's only got one piece of information in it. What did people have for lunch? Let's make this into a two-way table then by adding a different category of data. So let's say I wanted to break this information down into men and women, okay? So how I would do that then is I would just bring these numbers down. They'd still stay the same, but they become the totals for each of the category. And it would look something like this. So I've still got 16, 9, and 5, but these are now the total category for bringing lunch, buying lunch, and going out for lunch. And I've created some space for men and women so we can put some data in these empty areas here. Now, two-way tables, one thing that's really important is that you don't forget to put a totals row and a totals column down the side as well. Okay, great. The other thing that I would do is add lines to this. That's going to help us separate the data and make it a bit easier to look at as well, just like this. Okay, so I've got the information that I had at the beginning, but I've just moved it down to be my totals row, and I've got space to start putting stuff in here. Well, let's say I asked all the men in the office what they did for their lunch, and the results I collected were this. Okay, so I had 13 men in my office in total. 6 of them brought lunch. 3 of them bought lunch at work, but I've lost this information. I can't remember what went here. Well, we can work that out just like we did the last one by finding out what goes in this gap here. So 6 add 3 is 9. So we need to know the difference between 9 and the total 13. So 13 take away 9, that's going to give us a nice answer of 4. Great. And I can do the same with each of these gaps as well, because I know that these have to add up to the totals at the bottom. So for example, what do I have to add to 6 to get to 16? It's 10, obviously. Or 16 take away 6 is also 10. What do I have to add to 3 to get to 9? That's 6, or 9 take away 3 is 6. Or do I have to add 4 to get to 5? Just the 1, or 5 take away 4 is 1. And then lastly, if out of 30 people, 13 are men, well, the gap between 13 and 30 is 17. So the difference there, 30 take away 13, leaves me with 17. And obviously we can do additions to check this workout as well. So for example, I can just add across all the women and make sure they add up. So 10 plus 6 is 16. One more is 17. Perfect. Yeah. 6 plus 3 is 9 plus 4 is 13. So I can do checks to make sure that my numbers are all making sense as well. Okay, let's take a look at some of the exam questions then. So I'll pull my question up here. And if you've got the pack that I've attached to this video, you will see that question 1 is near enough exactly the same question. Students in a class, students in a class. Each student walks or cycles or gets the bus. Each student walks, cycles or gets the bus. The only thing that's different is I've changed the numbers so you can have a go and work out whether you can get the method right. Okay, so I'm going to go through this just like I was in an exam. I'll start just by reading it. There are 60 students in a class. Each student walks to school, cycles to school or gets the bus to school. There are 35 girls in the class. 15 of the girls walk to school. 10 of the boys cycle to school. 8 of the 16 students who get the bus to school are boys. And then 2 parts of the question. Part A, find the number of girls who cycle to school. And part B, one of the boys are chosen at random. Write down the probability that the boy walks to school. Okay, so there's a couple of things to note here. First, you'll notice that they actually haven't mentioned two-way tables anywhere in the question. Now, sometimes you'll get a question where there's already a table drawn and maybe even some numbers filled in already, and you've just got to complete it, finish off the table based on the numbers in the question and looking for the gaps in the table like we did in the last one. Now, if that's the case, it's a 3-mark question and the marks are for putting the right numbers in the right boxes. This question, though, is a 4-mark question because they've not mentioned it at all, and you've got to be able to work out, I'm going to do a two-way table and I'm going to put the numbers in myself. So you get the extra mark for doing that. So it's a good one to practice. Now, I know it's a two-way table because there's 2 different types of data. We've got gender, boys and girls on one side, and we've got transport, walk, cycle, or bus on the other side. So 2 different types of data to put in this table, and they're going to cross over as well. And we are after the number of girls who cycle to school, but it's easier if we just finish a whole table and work out all the numbers because that will allow us to check our answers as well. So I'm going to start nice and simply then, just by creating the titles for the table. Now I do this first, so for example, boys, girls, and totals. I'm going to do this first because it allows me to work out how many rows and columns there are nice and easily. So boys, girls, and totals. And then down the side, we'll have the transport, which is walk, cycle. Try and keep it in the same order, bus, and totals again. Remember to keep those totals row and columns in. Okay, then I'm just going to draw some lines in, help separate all the information. And that'll do. Okay, and now I'm just going to start putting the information that's in this question at the top straight in here. I'm not doing any calculations yet, I'm just putting it in. So there are 60 students in a class. All I'm going to do there is just make a little note that the total of both of those is 60. So there's 60 people in total. So that's the bottom right corner is going to be the very maximum total. Okay, get rid of that. There are 35 girls in the class. So again, I'm just going to go to girls total and just write 35 down there. I'll highlight that as well, just so that I know I've already done it. 15 of the girls walk. So 15 of the girls walk. So again, I'm just going to go to the girls walk row and pop in 15. 10 of the boys cycle. And you get in the picture by now. It's just literally taking the numbers in the question. And so boys cycle is here, and that's 10. Next, 8 out of the 16 students who get the bus to school are boys. Okay, there's actually 2 numbers in this row, which means we've got 2 bits of information to work out. So we've got 8 out of 16 students who get the bus to school are boys. So we've got 8 boys getting the bus to school, first of all. So I'll just make a note of that. 8 boys. But that's not just 8 on its own, it's 8 out of the 16 students who get the bus. So the total of students who get the bus is 16. So I can put that one in as well. So the total of bus is 16. Okay, and I'll just highlight that so I know I've done it. All right, and now that's all the information they've given me in the question, so I can start working out the rest of them on my own. So I'm looking for any row or column where there's only one gap. Okay, so there's 2 rows here that have only got one gap. Bus has only got one gap in it, so I can work out this missing piece here. And totals at the bottom here has also got one gap, so I can work out how many boys there are in total. Now I could do that using the question as well. So if there are 35 girls and 60 students, 60 take away 35 is 25. And that's doing it exactly the same as I would in the table. So 60, the total, take away 35, gives me a difference of 25. So again, I'm just going to put 25 in that total over here. Great, and I'm going to do the bus one as well. Well, 8 something 16. I know that 8 and 8 is 16. Or 16 take away 8 is 8. So again, I know just by doing adding up or subtracting that one must be 8 as well. Okay, so now I'm just looking for, I haven't got any rows that have got only one space. This has got 2 and this has got 2, but I've got some columns that have only got one space. There's one space here and there's one space here. So I'm going to add up the numbers that aren't the totals and see where that gets me to. So 10 and 8 makes 18, and I need to get all the way up to 25. So 18 plus 7 is 25, so my missing number is going to be 7. Another way I could have done that is 25 take away 18 would give me 7. Okay, so I'm just going to draw that, put that in there. 7. Okay, so cycle, similarly, 15 plus 8, well, that's going to give me 23. So 23 is short of 35 by 12. Or another way of saying is 35 take away 23 is going to give me 12. Okay, so I'm going to draw that box. I'm just going to check the maths on that. So 15 plus 12 is 27, plus 8 is 35. Good. And now I can just work my way across for these totals over here. So 7 plus 15 is 22. And 10 plus 12 is 22 again. Now I'm going to do a quick check by adding up my totals and make sure they add up to 60. So 22 and 22 is 44, plus 10 is 54, plus 6 is 60. Or this way, 25 plus 35 is also 60. So my totals are all adding up to the right amount. So that's just a quick check there. All right, that's part 1 done for 4 marks. Part B then, one of the boys are chosen at random. Write down the probability that the boy walks to school. Now, for probability, I nearly always am recommending a fraction, so something over something, and the bottom something is normally the total that it's out of. Now, it would be tempting to quickly write 60 here because we know that this question is out of 60 students. However, it doesn't say one of the students are chosen at random, it says one of the boys are chosen at random. So for the total for boys is only out of 25. So I'm going to just at the bottom here, write 25, because I know it's going to be out of that much. All right, so something out of 25. Write down the probability that the boy walks to school. Okay, well, how many boys walk to school? it's just 7. So again, just going to put 7 in there. And that should be a nice quick question. It's only worth 1 mark. So 7 out of 25 is 7 boys walk out of 25 boys in total. And that's it. Completed method and completed question for full marks there. That's going to be pretty much the end of the lesson. I'm going to put the student questions up side by side. So if you want to have a look at those together, you can do. But otherwise, hopefully I'll see you next time.